I'm Piercy Janwell, and you're listening to Unsubscribed. Every episode, I sit down with business leaders to help you question everything you thought you knew about marketing. If you enjoy this show, please do subscribe and leave a review on YouTube or your favorite podcast player. Now, on to this episode. Hey, my guest today is Tzoofit Hammer. Tzoofit is an entrepreneur and one of 3 owners at Forte, a commercial interior design firm here in Ottawa. Forte is in their 35th year of business and does amazing work that can be seen in many of the offices around the Ottawa area, including right here in the NAC office. Tzoofit, it's so awesome to have you. Welcome to the Unsubscribe podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Going?
Yeah, this is great. This is my first podcast ever, so I'm gonna, if I'm really bad, you know why. First one is always, a trial, but happy to be here. And yes, very excited that we're able to do your office and maybe future offices.
Yeah, we're planning that now. For the people in the audience who might not be familiar with what a commercial interior designer does, can you break it down for us?
Yeah, I mean, just to simplify it for people. So first of all, really important to make it very clear, we're not decorators. So that's something we really want to bring across. We're basically what in other countries we would call interior architect. We are dealing with everything that is related to, let's say, commercial, like specifically offices. So we start from the get-go and basically diving into very specific requirements for every organization. So no client is the same, no project is the same. Really starting from what we would call, the space requirements, the functional programs, who you are, how you work, how you need to work. And then we start into in-depth planning. From there, we go into what we call the fun part, which is where you start pulling all the design elements, which, would include materiality, which would include interesting detailing in the spaces, lighting. We're dealing with the overall space and the overall experience. And also the key here, because it's commercial interior design, we also need to be very specific about the functionality. We cannot design a space that might look amazing and photograph amazingly, but will not be functional. And we're also very, very focused on longevity. Not doing things would be too trendy and in 2 to 3 years are not going to be basically current, whether it's furniture, which is a key thing in what we do as well, and whether it's the actual aesthetics, because clients are paying usually, a lot of money. It's a big investment to go into officing. And look what happened now, right? Rethinking the new officing. We really want to make sure that the office brings what the client needs now and in the future. And then, of course, once all the pretty stuff is done, there's all the coordination with the other disciplines. So we're usually managing the preparation of the drawings and the documents for construction. Usually we have under us mechanical, electrical engineers. Many times there's HV, structural, because many times we're doing things that require structural interferences, sometimes sound masking, signage. There's a lot of this happening in offices. And then there's the construction portion, where we usually help to manage with a construction manager. And usually there's a project manager at that time as well that is representing the client if it's a very complex project. Furniture, again, is a big key. And we're in charge of that as well. And we just want to make sure we walk the client from the beginning, from basically the creation of the idea to the end. And we like to follow up within a year to see how things have worked out. Many times we and the client have the ideas of, okay, this is what we want, but has it worked? And how can we fix it for this and also fix it for the next projects? So commercial interior design is very complex. And we don't do residential, by the way.
Definitely.
We don't do
a lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts.
Which we definitely saw as well. It was really helpful having someone like Forte to tell us, also just, no, you don't want to do that. That's not going to look good. That's not going to be functional. And having that partner in your corner to make sure that what you're doing is the best use of your space and it's going to look as good as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, COVID has affected everyone pretty much. I think commercial office space as well. I mean, how has it impacted your business and what your customers are doing?
So the first year, and it's crazy that we're now talking about the first year of this era, right? It's been so long. The first year, I think there was a lot of waiting and anticipation and confusion and unknown. So everyone was trying to, predict what the future would be. And there were big announcements from some huge, corporations at that time. The office era is over. And with time, and people being at a home for so long and this need for reconnection again, there's a shift and people are pivoting back to, for sure it's going to be a hybrid kind of way of working. For sure, we've seen it as well. Before COVID, even ourselves, we said, there's no way we can work from home. We need the collaboration. We need the teamwork. And we had to adjust. We need to work from home. We are able to work from home. But, the minute we were allowed to go back, and we were open most of the pandemic because we work on certain projects, most of the staff opted to come to the office. There's this sense of community, of support, of together. And people have a lot of challenges sometimes working from home. I have no challenges. My husband has to work at the office for some reason. So the only challenges I have is the cats, running over the screen. But clients too, in the last year, started approaching us and saying, we need you to help us figure out what would be this hybrid solution for us. Because there is not one solution for all. A hybrid for one company could be planning for only 50% of the capacity of the people in the office. And for other is, what we want 70 to 80% of the staff at the office at all times. It could also be, what does that hybrid mean? Does that mean that we're planning the office in a way that when we're at the office is purely for collaborations? So no individual closed offices. It's all about how do we collaborate and spaces to do close collaboration, open collaboration, maybe some touchdown for people who want to do some work in between meetings and team, activities. And some clients say, we want the same approach as we had before. If I'm at the office, I want to be able to do everything from sitting at my office to meeting with other people. So it's very different. But now there's this comfort level from clients saying, we know that we need to figure it out. And we feel comfortable deciding this now because we realize pandemic is kind of something we're going to live with forever. Whether it's this one or the next pandemic, right?
Would you say that your customers are still very much in like an experimentation phase to see what this new office is going to look like? Or do we know, do we even know how it's all going to work yet?
No, I think everyone is in a position of saying, we're going to try this. We think this is going to work for us. But in the back of their minds, how do we design the office that if things have to shift in a year or two, we can do that? So a lot of flexibility, a lot of furniture. There's a lot of even internal processes that need to happen, right? Like if a manager says, I need all my 20 people here with me every day of the week, and you didn't design that way, right? So there's a lot of, they know it's going to be trial and error, and they're open for that kind of experiment.
Yep. So would you say there's kind of two schools of thought then? Like one that's like, let's keep the traditional office the way it is, and another where they're looking to basically create more collaboration spaces? Or are people just all over the map?
No, I think it depends also on the type of business. We see in law firms specifically, they're willing to go hybrid, which means there's going to be unassigned offices and unassigned workstations, but they're still going to have unassigned offices. So if a partner decides to come to the office once a week, they have an office. And many times The office is also at the window. So they're trying to adjust to the new way, but many of them are still in the old way. And then they have companies that say no closed offices, only teaming meeting rooms, and everyone else in the open. So it depends also on the type of business, and it depends on whether sometimes if it's one person making the decision or if it's a group of people.
Right.
So I think now more than ever, you realize that it's not one fits all. It's very, very specific, which makes it very exciting for us.
What considerations do you think people should make as a company on what kind of office or whether they should have an office?
Ooh, it's a good one. As we know, you and me, both of us, we need to have offices, right? We need it, I think, to build our culture, to build the bond between people. I think it depends on how maybe you've been operating since now, like from the beginning of the pandemic and from the pandemic. If your business operated virtually from the beginning, why introduce an office if you're not lacking that connection and you're not lacking the productivity and the efficiency and the excellence that being in the office would bring you? So if you're that kind of company, you don't really need an office. But if you had an office before, or if you feel that you need a space for people to, inspire one another and connect to one another and meet one another. And also keep in mind that an office is sometimes the best place for some people to work, because at home you might have a kid that is annoying, or ergonomic is not the best, and maybe sometimes the technology and the Wi-Fi does not work well. So you need to consider all of this. And for me, I think there's no such thing as no office, but to what extent, right? How big does the office need to be? You always say that, your office may not reduce in size. It may just be planned differently, because you might have to provide more of the variety of spaces to work. So today, you and I might be working in an office, but tomorrow you and I and 3 other people might be in a teaming room where other people are sitting on a benching. So I think if you were in an office before, you should definitely consider some sort of a new officing that works for you. If you haven't been in an office before the pandemic, why consider it if nothing is lacking?
Right. What do you think the best employers are doing to try and get their employees into an office and into a place where they can collaborate and build those relationships?
Well, I know that the thing that everyone needs to do, the first thing to think about is the office has to be better than home. So it needs to be a place someone wants to go to. What does that mean? It could be that the office is beautiful, it's inspiring, it's in a location that works for everyone, that it's, that the attention is on the staff. So views and amenities within the building, and not necessarily just within the actual office space. And I think that's the key. You have to think, why would my staff come to the office? I have to offer them something that they don't have at home.
Yeah, that's a great point. Why do you feel as though design is such an important part of a good office?
Well, design is a good part, functionality first, but design, I think most of us are very visual people, right? I mean, most homes you go to, again, people don't just live with white walls and empty rooms. You need to create ambiances. You need to create experiences. And I think that's part of why people go back to the office. It is stimulating, it is inspiring, it also can create areas of concentration. The use of elements of design, of colors, of materials are connected to human nature, right? Whether it's, like look at the funky, mural behind you. It's fun, it's funky, it represents you as well, right? So whether it's representing who you are as a company, and whether it's providing areas that allow you to concentrate or to be creative, I think it's very important. It's going hand in hand with functionality. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking to someone
Yeah, I
who's,
love that.
you know,
I mean, I definitely believe in that. I feel like what you can produce as a company is related to how inspiring your space is. And I think having an inspiring place for your team to work will eventually be represented in the results that they produce
yes.
and what they produce there. Talking about creativity, were you always did you always kind of have that creativity inside you? Where did you first discover that?
Oh my God. It's such a boring story because I'm not one of those people. I wanted to do this and I wanted to do this and then I ended up doing this. No, I don't remember when, but very early on. And my family is very creative. I always drew and things like that. My father, who was a scientist, always wanted to be an architect, but was a scientist. So I knew early on I wanted to be an architect, either an archaeologist or an architect. But I realized they already discovered the most important things, so focus on architecture. So from early on, I focused my studies to enter the best architecture school in Israel because I'm from Israel, like at university. And then I think at grade 12, it dawned on me that I don't want to be an architect. I want to be an interior architect because it's the interiors that really, really kind of spoke to me. So for me, it was like a natural journey. So for me, how many years is it now? Well, I don't want to say the number, but it's many, many years that I always wanted. This is what I want to do. This is what I always probably wanted to do and meant on doing. So yeah, and I live
So
this.
this is your
This is my
passion.
passion. I'm married to an architect who's also, that was his passion. So together it's like, and people shouldn't be afraid though, when we go to people's houses, we don't judge houses. We don't do it that way. We just like, we're really inspired by architecture and interior design.
Hmm. Does it make it hard for you to pick a hotel when you want to travel?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, because you're so, and the thing is, some people say, well, it's just a place to sleep, but you're like, ugh. But I think first it needs to be clean, but then it's also, the design. And then as a designer, you see, oh my God, they used the cheapest materials to make it look good the first year, and then everything is run down yeah, it's sometimes hard. And I'm in charge of picking hotels. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah.
I I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story at Forte
Ooh.
because you weren't always one of the owners, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about
Yeah,
that?
I started as a baby designer. So I came to Canada in 1997, like literally just graduated from architecture school. And, the first few years were like a great adventure. Like, yeah, first snow, it's amazing, la la la. And then literally my first real like job was at what was then Forte is the newer name, but it was Gans and Lindsay Design, which was even then one of the leading interior design firms. And I really started as like a junior designer, the entry level. And, throughout the years became more and more, I guess, experienced. And when the first owner retired, then who was then the senior designers, Vivian Michelin, took over. And then shortly after they started, basically the signal three of us to they already, once they took over, thought, oh, when we retire, and then we were basically brought up to, management and being mentored for 5 years to take over the company. But because we took the journey from the three of us started, right? Our careers started in interior design in that firm. So we really know the struggles and the whole process of what it is to design. And now becoming owners, I think it was 4 years ago, they retired, we became owners. the biggest shock for us was that we are now owners. So if we were like buddies with everyone before, right? We were designers and now we're no longer their peers. That was a bit hard to kind of grasp at the beginning because, we're now the bosses, but we didn't see ourselves as the bosses. But also doing it for so many years, maybe we have less of the patience and the understanding to know that it takes a long time to become a well-rounded knowledge designer. But for us, it's been a great and a natural kind of transition. It's not that we don't love designing, but I think the newer generation are just amazing in creativity, and we're better probably at managing and mentoring and leading projects. And yeah, it's great. It's challenging, but it's fantastic to be your own boss, right? So, but for us, it's been a long
That's
journey.
amazing. So that's all. Is this common in design firms to have, basically it handed
Yes.
down over time?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is very common. And again,
That's
as an example, my husband, they're going through the same process where the last generation are at the last phase, and they're taking over next year. Yeah. It's common because you have the
amazing.
clients, you have your reputation, you don't want to close the shop, and there's people who are able to.
Right.
So yeah, it is. And hopefully we'll be able to
That's
inherit it to our senior designers right now in many years.
Yeah, that's cool. It's very different than what I'm used to in the tech world. I mean, there isn't much that lasts 35
No.
years, or that there's anything left to hand down, but it's amazing. I love hearing about other businesses and just how different they can be. Um, Anything else that you think is important to touch on that maybe we haven't right now as people think about returning to the office or think about making changes to their existing spaces?
I think this is the time to really think about the past 2 years, how people have worked, and maybe even take some hints from working from home. What did I enjoy doing, or what
Hmm.
settings I enjoyed? And then really rethink it, because we're going to be out of this specific pandemic. There might be other, disasters in the future, but really this is the time to think about how we work. What do we love in terms of the aspects of working from home? What do we love with the aspects of being at the office with other people? And I think the key is to understand that the flexibility is here to stay. And there's one thing, maybe one of the positive things about this pandemic is everyone realizes that the balance of life and work is important. The flexibility and the ability to choose. And I think as an employer and as an employee, it's really important to recognize it and just start the discussion. But offices are there and they're going to stay, and we just need to make them work. We need people. We need to see
Awesome.
people. We need to be with
Yes.
people.
I'm fully in agreement with that.
I know.
Yeah. I wanted to get into sort of a section here of rapid fire questions that we ask every
Did not
guest
know
on
about
the
that.
Unsubscribe podcast. So the first one is, what's one marketing trend that you would unsubscribe from?
I'm not very trendy, so I don't know what would be a market trend. I don't know.
I mean, maybe like some ways that people are marketing to you that you wish they didn't do.
Oh, I hate those email things. I keep getting one. Actually, I just got one today. I get one every month, and it's about our domain, and I'm like, I'm not interested. Or one, are you interested in becoming, we could put you on the largest design firm, kind of like, I hate those email advertisement, and I'm like, I don't know how you got my email. I don't know why you bombard me every month. So I hate those. I mean, I don't like
So
those.
unsolicited email marketing.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you think that email is dead?
Oh no. Email? No, I wish it was dead sometimes because I can tell you just that time we've been together, I don't know how many emails I received. For us, I guess because everything needs to be documented. Client, us, contractor, project manager, email is at the point of uncontrol. It's uncontrolled and it's not dead. For us, it's live and kicking. And I wish sometimes people would just pick up the phone and have a discussion rather than a slew of 5 emails and everyone doesn't answer the previous question. So no, email is not dead, unfortunately for me.
We're big about work-life balance here at NAC. What do you do for fun?
I do not have work-life balance at the moment. When I do, I love cooking. I love throwing dinner parties. I'm a great cook and I love entertaining people. And that's going to be when I retire, my next career. I love doing that. I love reading. My favorite pastime is just to sit in the garden in the summer and read, fictional mostly. And I love very, very long walks, like 5-6 hours walks, not necessarily hikes. I like city walks.
That's awesome. Well, I love eating Tzoofit, so anytime you
Oh,
want to invite me
oh
over,
yes. And you know what? I'm obsessed with Yotam Ottolenghi, who is an Israeli-British chef. He has a few amazing restaurants in London, and I have all his books. And I religiously make stuff from his books for my dinner parties, which are, by the way, are pescatarians. So yeah, we should have a dinner party, a
Nice.
tech dinner
I
party.
love
Yeah.
that. Who is one person that you admire in the business community and why?
Well, you know what? I thought about that, and I have to say, for me, it's Pascal because it's the way he's connected, the way he's connecting us, the way he cares for the entrepreneurs, the way he instill everything he needs to. I know, speaking about myself specifically, but I think he's so powerful in his quiet way when he's quiet, and I think what he does, and he doesn't need to do it, right? I think he's amazing, and for me, it's Pascal.
Yeah, for the listeners, it's Pascal Saint Jean, and he is the leader of it. Zoofit and I's tech group, which is a leadership group that has about 15 entrepreneurs in it. And Pascal was a serial entrepreneur, and he's everywhere. I don't know how he has time for it all, but yeah, he is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. What's one piece of career advice that you've learned over the years that you think might help others?
So for me, it's do what you love. Don't look at what other people are making. Don't look at what other people are doing. You need to do what you love and you need to follow your heart. That's for me. That's it.
Love that. Who else should we interview on the Unsubscribe podcast?
Ooh. What about my partners? They might say the same thing. I don't know.
Emily,
Although Chantal is very into kind of sports and
Emily's
stuff
been
too,
great.
you know.
Oh,
Chantal is
cool. What
more,
kind of
well,
sports?
she used to heli ski and things like that, but she can't do it
Oh,
anymore.
wow.
She's not allowed to,
Nice.
for insurance
Yeah.
purposes. But I think she was like a snowboarder instructor. Her little kids are like they're very kind of active, sportish. I'm not, clearly. And she's really cool like that. She also spent, I think, 8 months. She took 8 months off work before becoming a mother and before becoming an owner. And I think they traveled South America and they've kind of volunteered. She's much more adventurous than me. So I think it would be cool. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Sufit, thank you so much for joining us today. I think you shared a lot of amazing knowledge around the future of the workspace as we get back to the new normal, as they're calling it, and looking at, how do you make it so that employees want to come into the office? I think this is the challenge for all employers of getting people back in so that they can build those relationships and collaborate as a team. We talked a little bit about Tzoofit's creativity and how design can inspire employees to produce their best work, and learned a little bit more about her passion for cooking and how you need to follow what you love, and that should lead to success. So thank you so much, Tzoofit, for being on today. It was amazing having you, and thanks for sharing.
Well, thanks for having me, and enjoy the day.
Thanks for listening to Unsubscribed, a podcast created by NAC. If you enjoyed this episode of Unsubscribed, be sure to subscribe to my podcast and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. If you have any feedback or want to chat, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or follow me on Twitter at marketing_101. Cheers.